Last Sunday, our special report focused on the closure of the Suhua Highway during this year's Dragon Boat Festival, which forced many stranded travelers to rely on sea transport to get home.
The crisis led us to ask if there is untapped potential in the Blue Highway of the sea. With Taiwan's earthquakes, typhoons and extreme weather events, could the nation's 200 seaports be the key to developing an alternative transport system? Let's take a look in our Sunday special report.
The ship won't leave port for another hour, but many passengers are already lining up to wait at the desk, presenting their pre-printed tickets and personal documents for inspection. The complexity of the process stems from the Maritime Transport Restriction policy imposed on the ferry company by the government. The number of passengers and vehicles on board must be reported to the Coast Guard Administration and the Taiwan International Ports Corporation before the ship can leave port.
那我们青海的这种手续就没那么简便。
Our seagoing procedures aren't that simple or convenient. We've been saying this all along. It's like Taiwan still has martial law on its coasts.
Once passengers have passed the inspection and are ready to board, they reach another hurdle as they try to cross the gangway between the harbour and the ship's stern. The harbour only has one gangway, so all the different vehicles as well as foot passengers have to wait their turn to board in batches.
当初是从日本这边京津海峡这边引进来的。
Ferries were first introduced to Taiwan from Japan's Tsugaru Strait. Their original port design incorporated boarding bridges exactly like those used for boarding aircraft. Of course, the development of our ferry infrastructure in Taiwan has been slower.
Not only is the boarding process time-consuming, the cost is hardly economical either. Foot passenger tickets start at $700 NT, and tickets for small passenger vehicles cost $1,500.
做一次就好了，可能是
I'll just take it this one time. It's probably the price issue. It's quite a big expense.
The ferry company says the ship costs 2.2 billion NT dollars, and the cost of fuel for a one-way trip from Chiau to Hualien is $250,000. Every year since the ferry was launched in 2013, the company has suffered losses of at least $200 million.
Our Taiwanese ships spend more on fuel for our domestic routes than foreign ships do for their international voyages. The expenses are almost 20% higher, roughly 17 to 19% higher. This is a rather heavy burden on us as ship operators running domestic routes.
After neglecting the Blue Highways for years, the government sent ships into action during this year's Dragon Boat Festival, when the Suhua Highway was cut off. Scholars believe that if the government systematically invested in complementary measures or shuttle systems for ports, they would find that sea transport is full of promise.
苏澳港呢，它的使用率并不是很高。
The usage rate of Suhua Port isn't very high. If it was converted from a cargo port for sand and gravel to a passenger port, or even integrated into more logistical chains, it could become a port for both cargo and passengers with a regular voyage schedule. Then it could replace the Suhua Highway to a considerable extent.
The need for rapid mass transportation options and a backup mechanism for surface routes is not the only issue. Following the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan in 2011, all of Japan's boats and ships were drafted into the emergency response. This could be seen as a warning sign for Taiwan.
那通过这个地震的话，也证实了一件。
That earthquake also proved that there are no safe bridges and no safe railways anywhere on Earth. There are only safe sea routes.
Taiwan and Japan lie on the same earthquake belt. If the Blue Highway is not properly developed, future maritime rescue operations will also be hampered.
气候变迁我们带来的风险会更大。
The dangers of climate change are growing. The government as well as the public should be thinking of risk management. We should anticipate that in the near future, as soon as there are changes in the weather, every aspect of our lives will be affected, including transportation mechanisms.
The professor's words are a warning siren. and a reference to the concept of national resilience, which has recently been gaining attention.
什么叫做韧性呢？就是它可以对抗各种灾变。
What is resilience? It means being able to stand up to any catastrophe. It means you can foresee and take early precautions so that when something happens, you can adapt immediately.
There's recently been heated debate over the railway construction component of the government's proposed massive infrastructure project, but there's no proposal for maritime transportation on the table. If a catastrophe occurs in the future, can we foresee whether Taiwan's land and people have enough safety measures in place?